Oh, hey, don't mind me. I'm just measuring my head so it can be modeled in Wave's new NX Ocean Way Nashville plugin. I never thought I'd ever have to measure my head for a plugin. If you're part of my Facebook community, you know that I'm on this quest to be able to mix and master music from a laptop and headphones without any sort of loss compared to my acoustically treated home studio. And if you have any desire to do the same, or your mixes just aren't translating, then I really think this video is going to help you. If you don't recognize me from all my mixing and mastering tutorials on YouTube, I am Bobby Balo, the mixing and mastering engineer at Raytown Productions. And like I just said earlier, I also run a Facebook community called the Home Studio Fast Track, and that's for any music creator looking to level up their music. So this video today is going to be broken into 4 different parts. First, I'm going to be talking about what the problem is with mixing and mastering on headphones. Then we're going to talk about how Wave's NX technology might be able to solve those problems for us. I'm going to give you a quick overview of the 3 different NX plugins, including this brand new Ocean Way Nashville plugin. And finally, I'm going to give you my honest recommendations to figure out if this is something that you need in your studio. All right, so first up, what is the deal about mixing with headphones? Well, there's actually a few things. Mixing in headphones is a little bit awkward because it's not how we hear music. Headphones don't really represent a natural space. They don't allow crosstalk between our 2 ears. Crosstalk is just a fancy way of saying when we're listening with speakers, we get a little bit of bleed from the right speaker in our left ear and a little bit of bleed from the left speaker in our right ear. And those differences are what our brains use to reconstruct the image of what we're listening to. And so it makes it really challenging to make good mixing and mastering decisions about depth and placement. Another issue is that there's really no early reflections when we have headphones on. And this really affects our brain's ability to identify how far we are away from a certain sound, as well as the acoustic characteristics of the room. So when you listen to music on headphones, a 3D stereo image that you normally get when you're listening to monitors, but it gets collapsed down into almost like a line that runs in between our ears. And 2 other minor things that I've noticed is without a room to resonate with the music that's being played, sometimes it's hard to get a good judge of how much reverb we need in our song, or even the low end. If you mix with a subwoofer, you probably totally know what I'm talking about, where you don't feel any of the impact from the sub, you don't get any of that physical feedback from the song. And these are basically all the reasons why I have just always struggled with getting a really good mix on headphones. And I think these NX plugins are starting to bridge that gap where we might actually be able to get really awesome sounding mixes from headphones alone. So if you're not aware, there are 3 different products that Waves has currently that deals with this NX technology. The first one is the NX Virtual Mix Room, and it is exactly what it sounds like. The NX Virtual Mix Room plugin allows you to dial in a virtual mixing environment. Abbey Road Studio 3 is the second plugin that Waves came out in their NX line, and this one gives you a few more options. You can actually select from 3 different monitors. So instead of a virtual mixing environment, Waves went in and did impulse responses of Abbey Road Studio 3. In this plugin, you can actually mix in stereo, you can mix in 5.1 and 7.1. And finally, let's talk about the new plugin, Ocean Way Nashville. After I demoed this extensively against Abbey Road Studio 3, I think the Ocean Way plugin is my favorite. The other feature that I'm also really excited about is, thank you Waves, you added an ambience knob. So now we can dial the room back if we think it's a little bit too lively and we like a little bit tighter sound. Let's hop into a session so you can get a feel for what the plugin is doing, and we'll go through all the different mixing environments. And I highly recommend that you put on a pair of headphones so you could really get the immersive experience that these plugins offer. I don't think you're going to get the same level of understanding if you're listening to this YouTube tutorial over a pair of monitors. Let's just talk about how to set up the plugin. You load it up on the output fader or your 2-bus, and just put it last so that everything is being processed through this plugin. Before you finish the song, make sure that you bypass this or disable or just get rid of it because you don't want to print it to your track. Here is NX Virtual Mix Room. We have a few different controls. We have the ability to do head tracking. We have head modeling, which is what you saw me doing in the beginning of this video. I literally measured my head. We have a room ambience knob, which I love. This allows me to dial in the amount of this virtual space that we want. I literally just listening back and forth between my monitors and my headphones to dial in about the right amount of room ambience to make it similar to like my mixing position here. And then we can adjust the speaker position, which is really nice. Depending on how your studio is set up, you can adjust it to be similar to where your monitors are. So for me, it's right around 45 degrees separation right here. And that just widens out the mix for me. What I didn't talk about was head tracking. That's a super easy thing to set up. When you have this plugin loaded, the head tracking feature pops up. It's right here. It's defaulted to the Bluetooth tracker, which I don't own, but you can buy this cool little gadget. It goes on your headphones, and it tracks your head position a lot better. But I just go to the camera tracker, and you can just choose a webcam. Then all you do is you turn on your head tracking, and it just works. So if you turn your head, it'll feel like you're turning your head in real life. Like if you turn 180 degrees around, it really does feel like the speakers are playing music behind you. And then at this very bottom section, this is where that headphone EQ is. So you can turn it on if you want. Here's a list of the different popular headphones that they have available. If you happen to have one of these, I would recommend using one of these defaults. It's going to help your image a little bit in general, and it'll help make the balance in your headphones a little bit flatter. Or we can use something like SonarWorks. So for example, I always use SonarWorks because I have the Biodynamic 880 Pros. There's a profile on SonarWorks. This is what it looks like. So this is going to make my headphones pretty flat, and that is going to make the representation using any of the NX products is realistic as possible, and it's going to give us the best results. All right, so the song we're going to be listening to is called Bonnie and Clyde by a band called In Your Memory. It was recorded and produced by my buddy Dave Andreas, awesome engineer. I'm just going to show you what it sounds like. It's pretty crazy how much the mix gets like shot forward in a stereo field. You can get a pretty similar vibe to your home studio. Let's go through some of these settings. Here's the ambience knob. Like there's no reason you'd ever use something like that. Okay, so I find that like 25 is a good number for me. And then let me show you this the speaker position. This is really cool too. It's almost like it's mono right now, right? If you're in a studio that has really wide monitors, like on a console or something, you know, maybe something around 90 is a good spot. It'll be similar to what you're used to. But I'm in a smaller home studio, so 45 is my magic number. And then we also have this rotate feature. Which I feel like is more of a gimmick than anything, but it's kind of crazy because you can really feel the speakers running around your head. This tool alone is a pretty cool plugin to look at. It's, I think, very helpful for making a headphone mix feel more 3D, and I really do think you can make better mixing decisions because of the way it's simulating a real environment. Let's pull up Abbey Road Studio 3. All right, so let's start with the near field monitors. I'm just going to go through all the settings just so you have an idea how different they are. The near fields feel the most balanced to me. Mid feels a little bit more mid-heavy, almost muddy. The far speakers sound powerful and really big, but they seem, to me, I feel like it's a little bit on the phasey side. There is no ambience knob, but this plugin allows you to mix in 5.1 and 7.1. I don't have any music like that, so I can't show you. They have the headphone EQ again, and then the head modeling technology. So if you enter this data in one of the plugins, it'll keep it for all of them. And again, this one also does head tracking, which would be, I think, really, really cool for 5.1 or any surround type mixing. All right, so let's go through some of these settings. So I'm going to start without it, and I'll punch it in. There's a lot of differences here, and I wouldn't really recommend jumping between all the 3 different settings. I would say pick one, really learn how that is, listen to a lot of music through it, and then make a decision from there. For me, if I'm using Abbey Road Studio 3, I usually stick with the near fields, and if I want to check the kick-bass relationship, I always go to the far and listen to it that way. And again, they have this rotate studio button, so you can just kind of pivot around in the studio.
You're so evil. Think with my heart and not with my head. I'm feeling defeated.
But I'd imagine with surround mixing, that would feel really cool. All right, let's check out the last one. So the brand spanking new Way Nashville, here it is. I really like the sound of these rooms. It feels a little bit more hi-fi, and with only having 2 different monitor choices, I feel like you can really get dialed into how each of these sound, and I think they can complement each other really well in a mix. In Ocean Way, we have my favorite ambient snob. I find that I like it at about 75 with this HR5 for my standard go-to mixing setting. And again, they have all the same features as the other ones. Got your list of headphones and your head modeling and head tracking. And again, you can do the cool thing where you swing around the studio. But this one I don't think has 5.1. So some of my recommendations, if you want to check out these plugins, is when you get started, make sure that you're referencing a lot. Anytime you're working on new monitors or a new mixing environment, you need to get recalibrated a little bit. So make sure you have a bunch of songs that you know and love ready to go so you can reference them and bounce back to the session, and do that a lot in the beginning until you get confident using one of these plugins. Number 2, I know there's several different monitoring choices in some of these plugins, and I highly recommend you find one and stick to it for the majority of your mixing. If you're jumping around a lot, it's hard to stay focused. You'll lose perspective pretty quickly. So for me, I find that the near field monitors on Abbey Road Studio 3 and Ocean Way seem to give me the cleanest mixing environment initially. And then once I'm about 90, 95 way through that, I'll go to the far fields, and it helps me really judge low-end impact and bass so I can really dial in that kick-bass relationship. If you're looking for something just to give a headphone mix a little bit more space that simulates something close to what your typical mixing environment is, I would say check out the NX Virtual Mix Room. You have a lot more tweaking parameters on that for adjusting the stereo width of the speakers and also the ambience control. And that, if I'm just trying to mimic my own home studio, seems to be a home run. If you do surround sound mixing, your only option is Abbey Road Studio 3. If you have the right headphones that have the correction curves in the software, then definitely do it. It's not as good as other headphone correction or room correction software like SonarWorks. So if you have those as other options, I would use those over the built-in EQ correction. But at least it's a step in the right direction. I would not recommend using both something like SonarWorks and the EQ correction in Waves NX. And if I had to choose between what my favorite plugin is out of the NX series, I'd have to say I'm really liking the Ocean Way Nashville plugin over Abbey Road Studios 3. It just feels more modern to me. It's more consistent. I like the simplified features. We only have 2 monitors instead of 3. And they added the ambience knob, which really helps me dial in the room to my liking so I can make better mix decisions. And I've also tested this where I've done a mix on my monitors and then done a mix using this new Ocean Way plugin. And everybody said they sound so similar that it's hard to really gauge which one sounded better because it's just small stylistic differences. And that is enough validation for me to know that I can trust this software and make really good sounding mixes with headphones on a laptop on the road. If you made it this far, thank you so much for sticking with me. If you want to help support my channel, hit that thumbs up button and tell YouTube that this video is helpful, and hit that subscribe button so you guys don't miss a video. I put new stuff out every single week. If you want to interact more with me and some other amazing music creators, check out my Facebook community. It's called the Home Studio Fast Track. So if you're interested in that or any of these plugins I showed you today, all the stuff is in the description. Definitely check it out. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video.